Take one.
Take one. Here we go. Here we go. This ought to be good.
Yep.
First effort at live video.
Yep. From the balloon hangar.
From the
here
balloon hangar
in Ashland, Virginia.
Yeah, we're going to try to do between two balloon baskets, but it's raining like the dickens, and
Yes,
it's
it is.
noisy out in the hangar. So
Yeah.
we're here hanging out in the office. So
Hence, we didn't fly this morning.
bummer. Yeah,
Yes.
we got to get the new balloon up, man.
Yes.
We bought that thing.
Yeah.
1st of January, and here we sit in the middle of February, and it's
Yeah.
still in the bag.
We made a trip all the way to Texas
And back.
and back,
And then to Arizona and back.
yeah, to buy a balloon and a
van.
and a little bit of Coors.
And a little bit of course, yeah.
just
Smokey and the Bandit reference.
Yes.
Bootlegged Coors back halfway across the U.S. Anyway.
Yeah, but we have a new mascot.
That's it.
That's Bucky.
Bucky.
Yeah.
Bucky the mascot.
Yeah, Bucky's our new mascot.
So anyway, yeah, we just got back, or a couple weeks ago we got back from Lake Havasu, Arizona, which was a fantastic balloon rally, and it was kind of fun because they hadn't been able to get any flights off out there in a couple of years.
Yes.
And we got to fly, I think, just about every window we had
Yep.
with Tiny the Fire Dog. So that's kind of what I wanted to do here today, is just talk a little bit about Tiny the Fire Dog. We talked about the football last time we got to chat about into a video, and now we want to talk a little bit about Tiny and the history of Tiny and where he came from. So Tiny was your kind of inspiration or your creation. What was the kind of the start of how Tiny became to be?
Well, obviously been flying balloons almost as long as I've been in the fire service. So started in the fire service in '84 and then started flying balloons in '88. So, within 4 years later, I'm flying balloons. And, throughout the years, attending many events, seeing that passion and joy that the hot air balloons brings to the visitors and the kids and adults, have always wanted to bring in a fire service type of message. And, throughout the years, we've done several banners. We've done the Learn Not to Burn banner, Stop, Drop, and Roll, and some other things we've done, but never really had a special shape specific to the fire service. Yeah. So then there's been some others throughout the years. There's been a fire extinguisher and a fire truck. There's been a fire chief, but nothing that's really been like the fire dog itself. So, so I've had that desire for many years and been in draft form. And then finally last year I was able to put it all together, worked with a fantastic balloon manufacturer down in Brazil. That's Aerofly Balloons. Luis and his staff did a fantastic job, not only on the build of the balloon, the quality of it, but the design aspect of it, going back and forth and tweaking it. We spent many conversations just getting the eyes the way that I wanted it and so forth. So with that, behind the scenes as far as getting the creation of the balloon, and then the balloon was built, and we took ownership of it in June of last year. And there's a lot of special and unique things that we put into that balloon. It's just not just a Dalmatian dog with a fire helmet on. It's got a lot of background and a lot of personal meaning too. And
I kind of take this as being layers. If you don't know all of your history or our history or where we came from, it's just a Dalmatian fire dog. But if you know some of the other stories in our background and where we came from, all of these things start to make sense. So first off is just the name, Tiny.
Tiny.
Yeah. He's not tiny. He's a special shaped balloon, which makes him pretty stout.
He's 90 feet plus tall.
Yeah. So how did the name Tiny come about?
So Tiny is a nickname from a gentleman that worked for Henrico Fire. He retired as a deputy chief, and his proper name was R.C. Dawson. And R.C. Dawson's nickname was Tiny throughout his whole career in the fire service. And it was fitting because Tiny himself was 6'4"
He's not tiny.
200 some pounds, and was a very stout gentleman. But he had the heart of a child, and was a very gentle giant, very similar to David Hughes that was with us in ballooning. So both of them were in that same situation. I mean, same built, same character, but just had that heart of gold. But R.C. Dawson, Tiny Dawson, retired from the fire service, but he always remained a friend to myself and many of the other fire service personnel. But he was a leader in the fire service. He really started the hazardous materials response team as we know it today, not only in Henrico, but in the state of Virginia and really throughout the United States. So he was the brains behind getting that team and that kind of response for Henrico into the region and so forth. So, but Tiny's no longer with us. He passed away a couple years ago, and you and I actually had the opportunity to sit down and do a blog with him and about the hazardous materials team in Henrico County, and that will be there forever because we were able to capture that. But so I wanted to have a tribute when I was designing the balloon. Wanted to come up with a name that was fitting, and it just dawned on me one day: Tiny. I mean, here's this 90-foot tall plus balloon. It's not so tiny, but let's call him Tiny. So that's what came about, and we will always refer to that balloon as Tiny the Fire Dog, and we've created a character that will go along, and eventually we'll hope to have kids' books that will be built around that Tiny the Fire Dog theme and balloon, and many things to come, and great messages that Tiny is carrying about, and hopefully we can talk a little bit about one of the messages that's on the balloon right now.
Yeah, and that it really is kind of a spillover from what we had on the football a couple of months ago. That was for Brad Clark specifically for the move over, and this banner that's on Tiny right now is just more of a generic move over, because that's the law of the land, so to speak, right now. So.
Yep. Yeah, so when I was thinking about the balloon and the design of it, we built it so there was Velcro on the back and also on the front. And because I knew at some point I wanted to carry a public safety message. And it's not just for the fire service, it's for all public safety. And there's many messages that we could carry: smoke alarms and using helmets on bikes and so forth. But the one message that just kept coming back to me that seemed was the most appropriate was this move over message, because that applies anywhere in the United States and really abroad. And it's also for the current drivers that are driving today, but also the kids of today's time that are learning to drive and will be driving in the future. The importance of that move over. Stop messing with things when you see emergency vehicles, road workers, when you see somebody on the side of the road changing a tire. It could be your mom and dad, your brother and sister. Slow down, stop messing with controls, stop messing with your phone, pay attention, slow down, and if you can move over a lane, and give those folks the room that they deserve, because that's truly what will save a life. There's many things out here that we could preach and talk about that will save a life and make a difference, but I can tell you firsthand that just that, slowing down and paying attention when you're going around people that are on the side of the road, will truly save a life.
Yeah. Some of the most scary moments I ever had was on 95 in the middle of the night, and cars coming by and seemingly not ever seeing that big fire truck with lights.
So that's the main message that Tiny is out there to promote, and we've been fortunate. All the events we've been to have allowed us to continue to display that message on it. And just for that, it's a good fit for Tiny and for all public safety workers that are out there and other workers alike.
Yeah.
So, some of the other uniqueness about Tiny is when you look at him on his collar, you'll notice his collar on one side has got a red stripe and on the other side's a blue stripe, and on the back is a yellow stripe. And you'll say, well, would you run out of fabric? You couldn't make the whole thing one color. And it was designed that way. In the fire service or public safety, when we lose a member of our family, we often will cover our badges in memory of them and mourning of them, and we'll color them sometimes, cover the badges with either a blue stripe or a red stripe or sometimes yellow. And the message behind that, or the meaning behind those two or three, the blue refers to our law enforcement folks. So police, sheriff, any type of law enforcement, that's where that blue stripe comes from. You'll often hear it referred to as the thin blue line. Right. And then the red represents our fire folks and also our EMS personnel. And then on the back, many people, when I mention this, they'll go, oh yeah, but I never thought about them being in the forefront. And that's the yellow is to represent our dispatchers, our communications folks. They truly are the unsung heroes in any incident, because they're the first one to answer that phone when somebody dials 911. And whenever they're having their worst day, they're on the other end. They're being calm, they're collected, they're taking information, they're giving you as the caller some specific directions and information, but more importantly, they're getting the units en route appropriately, and then they're also giving us directions and then help maintaining our safety throughout the whole incident. So
Crucial link in the whole chain.
It really is. It's just that it's a link of public safety personnel working on many incidents, from the dispatchers to the law enforcement to fire and EMS and so forth. So, but that's a little bit about Tiny and his collar and how we recognize and honor the folks that are no longer with us.
Yeah. Those are some of the more obvious ones, and the kind of when I saw the first pictures of Tiny, that's what struck me, is when I saw the registration number, and it was like, oh, there's way more to this thing. What's the N number of this area?
Right. So it is just that, the FAA requires in the United States our registrations start with an N, and you can seek and ask to have a specific N number to see if it's available and register it to your aircraft when you are having one built or changing ownership and so forth. So I was fortunate. The N number 343R was available. So I wanted to put that on Tiny. And that's really to remember the 343 firefighters who are no longer with us, that lost their life at the World Trade Center on 9/11 in 2001. But that's not to overshadow or underscore the other folks in the public safety realm that lost their life. There was 71 law enforcement personnel up in New York that lost their life. And then there were 55 military personnel down at the Pentagon that lost their life. And then there are hundreds of people, civilians, innocent civilians, in those two locations and also in Pennsylvania that lost their life on that one day in that tragic event. But Tiny, the N number is to represent our public safety folks, law enforcement, and our military folks to give them a little... it's a memory.
Yeah.
It's not the recognition, because nobody wants that kind of recognition. It's a memory of they're no longer with us, and we will always remember those folks.
Yeah. And I've seen when you talk to the public, because you're right, this is a kid magnet. The kids really come over to Tiny when we're sitting there at a static display or a glow, like we were doing in Havasu, and you start having a conversation around that, and you say, oh yeah, we're firefighters. Oh yeah, the collar means this, and oh yeah, the N number means that, and here's where the name comes from, and it really is a neat way to engage with people and tell the story, and hopefully get them to believe in and stick with that move over message that's on the back.
Yeah, and you're right. When we are interacting with the folks and we're sort of telling our story and our connection with the balloon and the public safety career that we have, the number of people that come up to us and say thank you, because thank you for what we're doing, for the messages that we're getting out. But it doesn't take many people to start talking to find out there's some connection either to public safety or the military or to 9/11, and we're just giving tribute to some unfortunate events in history, but also to recognize a lot of good things that our public safety and military folks are doing.
Yeah, this balloon is more than just a balloon. Then in that case, it's a flying. It's not a monument, a tribute, a reminder to all those we've lost, and to keep it in the people's forefront of their minds for the move over message, to not let anybody else get into that mix.
Right. Yep.
So you mentioned David Hughes' name too, and that's kind of another thing. It's not part of Tiny, but it's part of the basket. You've got a stanchion cover that's got some ribbons on it. Tell me about those ribbons.
Yeah, so it's got some ribbons, got some cancer ribbons, and unfortunately we lost David Hughes a couple years ago to a cancer, and so his name is written on that as a memory to myself. Every time I fly, he's flying with me, and then it's just that it's another tribute that I wanted to do to show my appreciation to David Hughes and to his family, and all that will remember David. And it's unfortunate he's no longer here with us, but he's in our memory every day.
Yeah. I plan on capturing some of those pictures we got out here in the warehouse, and we'll crop some of those in so you can see a little bit of a jovial, fun guy to be around balloons, and even wherever he was working, and his family's still with us, and kind of a tribute to them too.
Yeah.
So.
And the other tribute that I have on that same stanchion cover is the name Amanda. And Amanda comes from a ballooning family down in North Carolina, out of the Charlotte area. And Robert and Nikki down there were fantastic parents. And Amanda had some special needs throughout her career, her life. And was a young adult when she developed some cancer, and she's no longer with us.
Yeah.
But Robert and Nikki and that whole family and the ballooning family that knew Amanda, and just how much she loved balloons. She touched many hearts, and unfortunately she passed away a couple years after David, and her name is on that. So I'd like to say that's the last two names that will ever be directly associated with cancer and my ballooning history, but we never know.
Yeah,
But
that's kind of inevitable. But well, let's talk about going forward. Tiny's going to be out and about next few months. We're sitting here in February, mid-February. We just had a meeting this week with Wind Vineyards, and it sounds like we're going to take Tiny back out to a ballooning event out there in May.
yes,
So Tiny will be there with a number of balloonists, and we're going to have some more information coming about that. But where else is Tiny going to be in the next few months?
well, I've got several conversations going on with events, through Pennsylvania, Ohio, potentially maybe going back out to Iowa again. We are. I don't say we're committed because events just haven't started committing
Right.
the special
Still early.
shapes, but Albuquerque, to go back to Albuquerque, maybe even to Colorado. So we've got several. Texas is in June. I know we're scheduled for that one down in Sulphur Springs in the first weekend of June, and that's just before the U.S. Nationals, which is just over an hour or two away in Longview, Texas.
Nice.
So we got several events that are in the works, but it's a great balloon to fly. The kids love it. We're having a great time with it.
Yep, absolutely. Well, if anybody wants to know more about Tiny or get in touch with you, what's the easiest way? Because Tiny's got his Facebook page out there.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Tiny the Fire Dog.
Tiny the Fire
He's
Dog.
on the Facebook. He's also got a website. And then, like I said, when we get the opportunity, we're going to create some kids books, some coloring books, and characters, and just start to build that character and that message that Tiny will continue to carry out.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, thanks for this. Thanks for everybody for watching. I'm going to give a shout out to everybody who subscribed and given us comments and feedback on these videos. This is really the second one we're having some conversations around what we're doing with the balloons. Others have just been kind of music videos that are attached to the events we've been to. It's great to share those and get comments and feedback and share the sport of ballooning with them. So you can get in touch with either one of us through either Instagram. At Hot Air Balloonatics is the handle on Instagram. At Hot Air Balloonatics is the handle on YouTube. Give us a shout out there. Make sure you subscribe and follow along. And if you want to send us an email, hotairballoonatics@gmail.com. So Henry, thanks.
Yep.
Good seeing you. Even though we didn't get a chance to fly today, we might put our swim gear on and take a few laps around the parking lot.
I know. Yeah. So.
Okay, thanks.
All right. No, thank you, Robbie. Appreciate it.